And then they will see the Son of Man coming upon a cloud with great power and majesty. Yesterday, a priest friend of mine, whom some of you may know, Father Michael Marr, was sharing a few things with me. And he mentioned the case of the death of a certain Father Hyacinth, known by reputation to little Thérèse of Lisieux in her convent, and a cause of some concern to her good soul. In those days it was rare for men to leave the ministerial priesthood, but he did, and she was determined not to let him go. However, all that could be deduced from the circumstances of his death were that he didn't repent. She died before him and offered her last Holy Communion for his conversion. Some time later, it was during an exorcism, and the good exorcist also was concerned for this deceased priest, and dared to ask the demon present whether actually he had lost his soul. And because he was speaking with the authority of Christ the High King, the demon was obliged to reply, "No," because he didn't want him to be saved, obviously. Apparently, just at the moment of death, he made an interior act of contrition, because he was aware, after all, of the issue, even though externally people could not have known that. He was surrounded by people of non-prayer. A few things of the same nature have come to us through the likes of Quirérars, who knew things that happened at the last minute sometimes. But the bottom line is that the risk is always there. And it is wrong to place, as it were, the whole equation in an unbalanced context of mercy, mercy, mercy. Why? It's actually an incorrect nature of things fundamentally, metaphysically and theologically, because it goes into a condemned heresy. Origen was condemned after his death, but the doctrine that he put together, the apokatastasis, the reconciliation, the recapitulation of all things, including the lost, including therefore the demon, was actually heretical. So it was defined in the early centuries as heretical, and it is creeping back in polite forms, often by omission and implication, but it is nevertheless an error which leads to what? Just what old Nick wants: a cancelling of the equation. It's only in our generation that actually Catholics really have got into this. It's been pushed by people in high places sometimes, bishops and so on, and it's partly, not entirely, but partly influenced also by a great modern theologian, Hans Urs von Balthasar, on whom a friend of mine was an expert, but he died before he was able to do his doctorate on him. And he was going into scriptural citations, trying to pick out evidence that actually there was a reasonable hope, that was the expression, a reasonable hope that all would be saved. It was picked up, as you know, by Bishop Barron, and is now promoted by quite a few. But actually, it's close. It's close to that heresy. Now, several things follow from that proclamation. It's basically this: we withdraw from our King and our Maker and our eventual Judge his rights as King and Maker and Judge, and we place ourselves upon his judgment seat. If you don't believe me, go to the nearest funeral. So it is that whatever we say on earth does not influence one iota the last word of that eternal King. And so the correct attitude before him is silence. Silence and pleading. Silence and awe. For actually it is our truth. We do not know, and we can't presume to know. Another form of presumption of knowledge is that of those who cancel not only his rights but also his being, and would laugh at a gospel like this. Oh, comfort, sitting on the clouds. A lot of noise may be made on this side, but at the moment of death there is silence, and we don't hear what is said one moment later. Some years ago, I was deeply moved by this encounter with an ancient and real skull that had underneath it an old Italian inscription, which would be, "What you are, I too was. What I am, you too will be." And I was so moved that I went and wrote on a strip of paper I could just find a poem back to it, addressing it, asking it, "Where are you? What did that jaw say? Did it speak and earn glory? Or utter words that will earn you eternal damnation? For whatever you did, it is writ large on your copybook, and you are somewhere. You're not a skull, you're a trace of an immortal soul, ignited, sparked, and unable to stop. You cannot stop being, and you have written your eternity with that jaw. Your words have won or lost the aeons ever to be, and you are still speaking. My friends, we are rewinding the clock today, the first Sunday of Advent, and in the new calendar, the first Sunday again of the 3-year cycle. Time is passing. We need to pause. This night, it hit me strongly. Now actually, if we're not careful, we will not grasp the grace, because we will be doing too many things with our mind. We don't need all these words in our mind. There's a new activism come into the holy. It's cyber activism, and they can't engage with the silent one. It's a trick, my friends, of the interior life. The fewer words are in our head, the more the depth and the more we feel them. What do we want? Do we want a life full of syllables and absence with the word? Or do we want him and simplified eternity and internal life? With regard to what is going on out there, and I finish with this, it's rather like what appeared some years ago in the States, when people were trying to make provision for all kinds of eventualities, insurance against everything. It was during the reign of Bill Clinton, actually, and they were trying to, as it were, foresee all the eventualities with regard to health, death, and all. And they had this strange, unexpected apparition of the disguised Bill Clinton and his young wife. He was on a sofa in this position, admiring the beauty of his prima donna, and she had her head down, washing the dishes in the sink, turned the other way, and her hair was down to her shoulders. And she turned round at one point in front of the whole American nation and said, "Honey, does this comprehensive insurance mean that we're going to die